Prehistoric animals that lived thousands of years ago were preserved for us, frozen in ice. These awesome discoveries give us a cool peek into a time long gone. Some of these icy remains not only show us what these animals looked like but also give hints about how they ended up there. Today, we're showcasing 20 prehistoric animals that were found frozen in ice. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Oh, and don't forget to like the video before we dive in. In 2016, scientists made a jaw-dropping find near Cape Irizar on Antarctica's southern coast. They stumbled upon an abandoned colony of prehistoric Adeli penguins, missing from that icy spot for over a century. They found nesting sites with mummified remains, bones, and even penguin poop. It was like the colony had just left. A new study led by researcher Steve Emsley explains this mystery. Turns out, the penguin remains might have been buried under ice for hundreds or even thousands of years. The recent thaw revealed the colony again. By dating the mummified remains, they learned the Adeli penguins lived in Cape Irizar 3 times in the last 5,000 years, each time getting pushed out by rising sea levels about 800 years ago. During the Ice Age, Siberia was nothing like the barren land it is today. It was bustling with mammoths, tundra wolves, bears, rhinos, wild boars, bison, and cave lions, the biggest relatives of today's African lions. Deep in the frozen Siberian Arctic, a golden-haired lion cub was found, covered in mud but really well preserved. Even though 28,000 years have passed since it last closed its eyes, its teeth, skin, soft tissues, and organs were perfectly mummified. The cub was named Sparta, or Siberian Simba. Sparta was one of 2 lion cubs found by mammoth tusk hunters on the banks of the Semilak River in Russia in 2017 and 2018. At first, they thought the cubs were siblings since they were found just 15 meters apart. But recent research showed they were actually about 15,000 years apart in age. The second cub, named Boris, is around 43,448 years old. In 2014, more cool discoveries were made in the permafrost of Siberian Yakutia, also known as the Sakha Republic. They found the remains of a young woolly rhino, named Sasha after the person who discovered it. Sasha gives us a glimpse into the Paleolithic era. Its thick, strawberry blonde fur is pretty unique compared to the gray fur of today's white rhinos in Africa. Teeth analysis showed Sasha was about 7 months old when it died. Despite its young age, Sasha was as big as an 18-month-old modern rhino. Scientists think Sasha probably drowned in a mud puddle before its body froze in the permafrost. They also noticed Sasha's fur had changed, indicating seasonal shedding, a phenomenon common in many animals. Studies of Sasha and others like it provide insight into the different climate of Yakutia 35,000 to 50,000 years ago. The region had colder and drier conditions without the climate zones we see today. Where Sasha was found is now tundra, which didn't exist back then. With no tundra vegetation, there were plenty of grasses and grains, providing enough food for the mammoths and woolly rhinos living in the area. Meet Dogger, an ancient puppy found in Siberian permafrost, whose name means friend in the Yakut language. Genetic tests revealed Dogger is neither a wolf nor a dog, hinting it might be a shared ancestor of both. The University of Yakutsk reports that parts of Dogger's remains were incredibly well preserved, including the head, nose, whiskers, eyelashes, and mouth. The puppy still had milk teeth, indicating it was only about 2 months old when it died. The preservation was so good that scientists managed to sequence Dogger's DNA from a rib fragment. This analysis showed Dogger was a male. The fact that Dogger doesn't fit neatly into either the wolf or dog category suggests it might belong to a population that predates both, an evolutionary link between the two. Dogger's presence is particularly significant because it comes from a crucial period in the evolution of dogs, when wolf populations were declining, and the first dogs were emerging. In 2007, a Siberian reindeer herder named Yuri Kudi found another mammoth baby named Lyuba. Lyuba briefly went missing but reappeared with her right ear and tail chewed off, probably by dogs. After her death, Lyuba was preserved by lactic acid produced by bacteria that entered her body, keeping her soft tissues almost perfectly intact. It's hard to believe she's about 42,000 years old. Another woolly mammoth named Yuka was found in the Siberian permafrost in 2010. Yucca lived around 39,000 years ago during the last ice age. Her remains were so well preserved that they contained intact DNA, skin, muscle tissue, and hair. Yucca's discovery provided valuable info about the genetics and biology of this extinct species, sparking discussions about the possibility of cloning woolly mammoths. The Jarkov mammoth is another prehistoric animal found on the Taimyr Peninsula in Siberia. This mammoth, estimated to be around 20,000 years old, lived between 34,000 and 12,000 years ago, reaching a ripe old age of 47 years. Scientists discovered that mammoths left the Taimyr region at various times, searching for food or escaping floods. Let's jump back to about 214 million years ago when Earth looked very different. In what is now Greenland, a dinosaur called Ichthyosaurs roamed. This cool dino walked on two legs, had a long neck, and was an ancestor of the sauropods, the largest land animals ever. The name Ichthyosaurs honors the Inuit language of Greenland, meaning cold bone. At first, scientists thought one of these dinos was a Plateosaurus, a well-known long-necked dinosaur from Europe during the Triassic period. But when they discovered two well-preserved Ichthyosaurs skulls in eastern Greenland in 1994, they realized they had something special. These herbivorous dinos lived about 214 million years ago during the late Triassic period. This was when the supercontinent Pangaea started breaking apart, creating the Atlantic Ocean. The climate shift allowed the first herbivorous dinosaurs to migrate to Europe and other places. The two skulls belonged to a young and almost adult Ichthyosaurs and resembled dinosaurs found in Brazil like Macrocolum and Unaysaurus, which are even older. Along with the German Plateosaurus, they form a group called Plateosauridae. These relatively agile dinosaurs walked on two legs and could grow up to 10 meters long. A reindeer herder from the remote desert of eastern Siberia went on an adventure to Bolshoi Lyakovsky Island in the Arctic. There, sticking out of the permafrost, he found almost perfectly preserved remains of a 3,500-year-old frozen brown bear. The Siberian cold preserved not only the bear's soft tissues but also parts of its last meal, which included birds and plants. A team of daring scientists in Siberia took on the fascinating mission to study this bear. Carefully, they cut its tough skin to access its brain, internal organs, and other tissues. This opened doors to various research areas, from cellular and microbiological analysis to genetic and even virological studies. Interestingly, genetic analysis showed the bear's mitochondrial DNA wasn't much different from modern bears in northeast Russia, like those in Yakutia and Chukotka. This bear was about 1.5 meters tall, but how it ended up on the island is still a mystery. Today, the island is separated from the mainland by a 50-kilometer wide strait, so there are several possible scenarios. Maybe it crossed over ice or swam in the water, or perhaps the island was connected to the mainland back then. What do you think? As a miner in the beautiful Yukon region of Canada, you're determined to find gold. Using a powerful water cannon, you're blasting away frozen mud, and then, instead of gold, you stumble upon a gray wolf pup almost perfectly preserved from 57,000 years ago. This incredible wolf, named Zur, was discovered in the traditional lands of the Trondek Wet'suwet'en people. This isn't just any wolf mummy. Its body is about 100% intact, except for the eyes. Researchers determined Zur was a female, and X-rays revealed she was around 6 or 7 weeks old when she died. These frozen discoveries are like time capsules, giving us an amazing look into the past. From penguins and puppies to mammoths and mysterious dinosaurs, each find tells a unique story of life thousands or even millions of years ago. No conclusions here yet, just a lot more frozen finds and their incredible stories to share. What's even cooler is that a chemical test on her teeth showed she mainly munched on fish and other water critters instead of big mammals like bison, which you'd usually expect. Looks like Zur was doing just fine health-wise, so she wasn't starving or being chased by other predators. Instead, it's believed she was chilling in her den when she got buried in sandy soil, preserving her for thousands of years. The DNA analysis showed that Zur belonged to an ancient group of gray wolves from Siberia, Russia, and Alaska. However, this group isn't around the Yukon area anymore, suggesting that a different wolf population eventually took over. Moving on to number 12, in the beautiful Yukon, not far from Dawson City, a paleontologist hit the jackpot with a mummified Arctic ground squirrel from the Ice Age. This all started in 2018 when a miner was working in Hester Creek. They usually find Ice Age bones and fossils there, but this find was different. At first, it looked like just some dried fur and brown skin. But upon closer inspection, the squirrel's features became clear. Tiny paws, claws, a fluffy tail, and those cute little ears. Arctic ground squirrels build nests known as underground burrows for their winter hibernation. These ancient nests are often preserved in frozen soil. However, finding a complete squirrel is much rarer. These squirrels are fascinating to study because, unlike mammoths or saber-toothed cats, they manage to survive in the Yukon even after the Ice Age. Who knows if this squirrel looked like the one we know from the Ice Age movies? Number 11. A 42,000-year-old foal was found preserved in ice, with liquid blood still in its veins. This incredible discovery is now the oldest sample of liquid blood ever found. This foal, in particular, belonged to the Lena horse species and was discovered in the impressive Batagayka crater in eastern Siberia. It's estimated that it was only a week or two old when it died. But the icy grip of the permafrost worked wonders in preserving its skin, hair, and even the smallest details of the foal with extraordinary precision. And here's the mind-blowing part. The foal's bladder even contained well-preserved urine. Scientists have been eagerly working to extract intact cells and high-quality DNA from the foal, hoping to possibly clone it. Number 10. Way before humans were around, ancient animals made epic journeys to the Yukon, turning it into a wonderland for giant creatures. Giant camels, sloths, lions, hyenas, and more roamed this megafauna paradise. When these animals finally died, their bodies likely decomposed and merged with the frozen soil. Scientists found traces of an ancient hyena that supposedly crossed into North America via Beringia, a land bridge from the Ice Age connecting Russia and Alaska. This discovery is significant because, despite over 50,000 animal bone remains from the Ice Age in the Old Crow area, only 2 bones or teeth of this specific hyena have been found. These ancient hyenas were similar to modern ones, with long, strong legs for running fast. They evolved over 5 million years ago in Europe or Asia, and their remains have been found worldwide, from Mongolia to Kansas, Mexico, and now the Yukon. Fossilized teeth of these ancient hyenas can now be seen at the Canadian Museum of Nature in Ottawa. Researchers believe these teeth belong to a hyena that roamed the Arctic between 850,000 and 1.4 million years ago. Ichthyosaurs, which swam the oceans alongside dinosaurs on land and pterosaurs in the sky, went extinct before their land and air buddies. In southern Chile, in melting glaciers, dozens of almost complete skeletons of these prehistoric marine reptiles, aptly called fish lizards, from their Greek name, were found. These giant, speedy sea creatures swam during the dinosaur era, about 245 to 90 million years ago. Their end came from massive landslides that preserved their remains in seabed sediments. Later, these fossils were uncovered as the glaciers melted. This incredible site near the Tyndall Glacier in Chile's Torres del Paine National Park revealed 46 specimens of 4 different ichthyosaur species. Some of these specimens date back to the early Cretaceous, about 150 to 100 million years ago. These marine reptiles had torpedo-shaped bodies, vertical fins, and long, sharp teeth, much like today's dolphins. The largest skeleton is over 5 meters long. These fish lizards likely hunted in underwater lakes near the coast, where they preyed on squid-like creatures and fish. In 1979, in Alaska, gold miners were doing their thing when they made a jaw-dropping find. While thawing frozen mud with a hydraulic hose, they uncovered a 36,000-year-old bison. This Ice Age bison, called Bison priscus, was identified by paleontologist Dale Guthrie. But there was a big issue. The beast was stuck in the frozen ground, and huge ice crystals blocked the excavation. Even during the hot summers, the bison stayed frozen. Guthrie worried that if they didn't dig the creature up quickly, it would decompose once it thawed. So, after removing it, they decided to freeze it immediately. The excavation continued until the entire bison body was freed from the pit. But it didn't end there. Washing it revealed bone fragments, fur, insects, wood, and plant remains. But the most striking thing was the bison's blue color. This blue hue came from a mineral coating called vivianite, formed from phosphorus in animal tissue reacting with iron in the soil. When vivianite came into contact with air, it turned a beautiful blue, earning this Ice Age bison the nickname Blue Babe. Number 7. In 2008, some folks were mining gold in Hunker Creek, near the Alaska border, when they stumbled upon an incredible find. They discovered bones dating back 75,000 to 125,000 years, from the Ice Age. Among these impressive bones were femurs belonging to an extinct camel species. But here's the interesting part. Genetic analysis showed these ancient camels, which evolved about 10 million years ago, were different from today's camels. The ancestors of modern camels crossed the Bering Land Bridge, which once connected Asia and North America, about 7 million years ago. However, these Ice Age camels in the Arctic region ventured north during a warmer period, around 100,000 years ago. Sadly, they went extinct about 10,000 years ago. But here's the cool part. While most camels migrated south to places like Honduras, some adventurous ones headed north to Alaska and Yukon. Number 6. Researchers recently found an almost perfectly preserved carcass of a horned lark. This bird was hidden underground in an icy cave in northeastern Siberia. This find gives us a peek into the ancient ecosystems of the region. It started with fossil hunters who got permission to dig tunnels near the village of Balaya Gora. They found this bird still looking quite well preserved. Radiocarbon dating showed it was over 45,000 years old. Genetic analysis confirmed it was a horned lark, a species still around today in the form of 2 subspecies in the northern hemisphere. This Siberian specimen might be a direct ancestor of modern horned larks. Imagine how this bird may have played a key role in the evolution of its species over time. All this happened during a period of climate changes, dividing parts of Europe and Asia into different ecosystems. Despite the challenges and the extinction of other animals, this bird survived. Number 5. Here's a mystery scientists are still trying to crack. A gigantic wolf head found in Siberian permafrost. Estimated to be about 40,000 years old, it was found above the Arctic Circle by a local named Pavel Efimov. But how the head ended up there is still a puzzle. Dr. Albert Protopopov, a Russian scientist, thinks the head may have been cut by the ice. But here's the intriguing part. The soft tissue shows cuts resembling axe or knife marks, suggesting it was intentionally cut by ancient humans. However, why would they do this, especially since no human population lived in that area at that time? To solve the mystery, researchers plan a new expedition to look for other parts of the wolf's body near the original find. The wolf's head has exposed teeth and an intact brain and is larger than modern Siberian gray wolves. Some parts of the skull are also more developed than those of today's wolves. To this day, it remains an unsolved mystery. Do you have any ideas? Tell us in the comments. Number 4. In 2020, deep in the permafrost, scientists found an ancient dog with a unique last meal. A piece of one of the last woolly rhinos on Earth. An autopsy on the mummified dog revealed a piece of undigested skin with yellow hair in its stomach. Woolly rhinos went extinct about 14,000 years ago, matching the estimated time of the puppy's death. It's still a mystery whether the puppy was a pet or a wild wolf. If it was domesticated, we can imagine it lived alongside ancient humans. Number 3. In 2023, scientists discovered a worm that had been sleeping in the Siberian permafrost for 46,000 years and then came back to life. If this sounds like something from a sci-fi movie, you're not alone. However, this tiny creature, a previously unknown nematode species, defied the limitations of its short life. It's believed the worm entered a dormant state called cryptobiosis, meaning it stopped eating and completely halted its metabolic activity to survive. This nematode was found about 40 meters deep in the permafrost, inside a hole in the Arctic soil. The most surprising thing is that when the worm woke up, it immediately began to reproduce. Nematodes always fascinate scientists due to their incredible ability to survive long periods of frozen sleep in extremely cold conditions. Some nematodes can even withstand dehydrated states, like in the Atacama Desert in Chile, the driest place on Earth. One of them was even revived after almost 40 years in a dehydrated state. Number 2. The giant beaver, one of the biggest rodents ever, was really huge. But did you know this big rodent wasn't a fierce predator? Surprisingly, it mostly liked small plants from lakes as a meal, which is quite unexpected given its massive size. The giant beaver, also known as Castorides ohioensis, was about 1.8 meters long and weighed around 220 kilos, about the size of a modern black bear. What made it special were its incredibly long incisors that stuck out from its skull. Researchers studied fossilized bones and teeth found in Yukon and Ohio, dating from 10,000 to 50,000 years ago. Unfortunately, despite its impressive size, these mega beavers went extinct about 10,000 years ago as the climate became warmer and drier. It's a bit sad, but maybe they were simply outcompeted by smaller beaver species that kept their wood-chewing habits. Number 1. If you go back about 24,000 years in north-central Iowa, you'd find yourself in a vast ice sculpture park known as the Wisconsin Glacial Episode. The Des Moines Lobe, a huge ice sheet, began to grow and dramatically changed the landscape. This ice sheet shaped lakes, rivers, and fertile soils. But what's really cool is that it also impacted the lives of Ice Age mammals. Think of bison, deer, and even mammoths. They all migrated north due to changing conditions, and in this landscape, we find one of the most remarkable creatures, the giant sloth, scientifically known as Megalonyx jeffersoni. These sloths were impressively large, almost 3 meters long and weighing between 2 and 3 tons, similar to a small elephant. But unlike today's sloths, they used their huge claws for various purposes, including foraging. What makes this story even cooler is that Thomas Jefferson himself discovered the bones of this sloth in 1799 and named the animal Big Claw. Which prehistoric animal would you love to see brought back to life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Want more? Click on one of the videos on the screen or check out our channel for more cool content. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.